glad you are with us today whenever you have turned into this particular video. My name is Susan Jarboe, and with me today are Kathy Cronin and, of course, our Reverend Linda. I'm going to be doing a reading from a 20th century mystic by the name of Joel Goldsmith. But before I get into what he says, let's pray. Our Heavenly Parent, help us to study and apply your wisdom to our lives each day. Help us make this session a discipline of the mind and heart, empowered by your Spirit, transforming each day more and more into your likeness. Thank you for your tender mercy and love, ever leading us onward. Amen. The book I'm going to be reading from, and I don't know if you can kind of see this, it's called The Thunder of Silence, which of course is an oxymoron, but I like it. It makes me think. And the chapter I want to read from is called Who Told You? And there are various paragraphs I want to call to our attention. There'll be a couple of times in this presentation when I stop and ask the panel to comment, and then I will go on. So let's start at the very beginning. In Genesis, we learn that God created Adam and Eve and placed them in the Garden of Eden in the midst of perfection and harmony, surrounded only by goodness, love, and beauty. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were naked, but they were unaware of their nakedness. They had bodies, but as long as they were of a pure mind, there was no shame in them. Bodies were just normal, natural things, so why be ashamed of them? Yet the next thing we read is that Adam and Eve were ashamed because they knew they were naked. Suddenly, the belief of evil had come into their minds, and they began to cover up and hide. What were they covering up? And from what were they hiding? Except the belief of evil in their minds. And God said to Adam, "Who told thee that thou wast naked?" And so now I'd like to stop and ask the panel, who told you? Who told us about the notion of good and evil and good and bad? Where did we learn those lessons?
Well, I can tell you, yeah, I think we get told everywhere. It's all around us. Our parents tell us, our friends' parents tell us, our friends tell us, but it's always a message from the outside, I believe. I think in the beginning, at least for me, it wasn't a message from the inside. And I could be wrong, but from a very, very early age, I know that my parents were forever telling me that's bad, that's wrong, don't do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to sort of ditto with Reverend Linda and the fact that it's the outside influences, the separation as to what's good and evil. Just what do they say that in the first 2 years of a child's life, they hear no, 20 times greater than they hear the word yes. And, no, this is bad. No, don't do that. And, and a lot of that is out of protection, that their safety because they don't understand it, but all they know is it's no, and that's bad. And that behavior is not, things. And then the other side is like, who told me, I take this into a little deeper level as to the internal beliefs that I have about, my own self is like not being good enough or not having those things is like, who told me those things? Who made me be this bad person or, that this was not kind behavior, or this wasn't, acceptable. And, who made me feel that I was less than? And it was the externals, it was teachers. I grew up and I was in a Catholic school, and the nuns were brutal about making you, everything was evil, that if you weren't being pious, that it was evil. So it's sort of like from the teaching. And if you take the churches, I mean, the whole concept of churches was about controlling the masses to teach us that things were wrong. And then if I even want to go back further, let's go to the Bible and go to the New Testament, and you start going to a lot of the Acts of the Apostles, and it's the guidelines of, this is the way you're supposed to behave, and this is what's good, and this is what's evil. I always go back to Jesus, and Jesus didn't teach about evil, and that he taught about being loving and non-judgmental and things like that. So when I have people quoting me the Bible and says, well, it says this in the Bible, and it's like, but did Jesus say that? It's sort of like, that's my comeback, because he was not about telling us what was evil. He was telling us about what was good. So, it's sort of like, it's everywhere around you, that perception, and it's whether or not you've been influenced with the good or the evil.
Thank you, panel, for your contributions. And let's continue with what Joel Goldsmith has to say. Continuing with this thought, who told you? Everybody is hiding from someone or from himself, or hiding something within himself for fear of having it brought to light. Let me stop and add a footnote here. This is an older book, so it has gender biased language. I apologize for that. Why is he afraid? Having something within himself? Because he is dealing in the realm of good and evil. Who told him that this is good and that is bad? Who told him that it is more moral to cover up the body than to expose it? Who told him that there is sin? Who made this condition? From his very question, who told you? God certainly implies that he did not, God did not. God did not say there was anything wrong about a naked body, nor did God say there was anything wrong on the face of the earth. The sin that crept into Eden was not an apple, nor was it sex, although traditional religious opinion would so identify it. The sin was the acceptance of two powers. And when humans began to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we took upon ourselves a dual universe, so that no longer could it be said that he was too pure to behold iniquity, because now he saw and knew both good and evil. When we are able to rise above the realm of thought to that high place where we have no opinion whether anything or anybody is good or evil, but are willing to be a perfect transparency for the instruction of God, then God speaks in our ear and shows us the spiritual reality which exists right where that man of flesh who cannot please God appears to be. But in that instant, when God speaks, the man of flesh is transformed into the Son of God and is immediately returned to the Garden of Eden, where he is now the Son of God living under God's government. The belief in two powers is what traps us into vacillating between the pairs of opposites, harmony and discord, poverty and abundance, life and death, sickness and health. Whereas the ability to abide in our inner being, realizing that there is only one power, that there is no good and there is no evil in any form, frees us and brings the peace that passes understanding. The only devil is the knowledge of good and evil. We decide that this is good and it is so unto us, or that this is evil and so it is. Whereas the truth is that there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And that's a quote many of us have heard over the years. Then, to be rid of the pairs of opposites, we must stop the merry-go-round of the human mind, and that is actually not as difficult or as impractical as it sounds. And I'd like to ask the panel again, Goldsmith is really making quite a claim here that the two powers are an illusion of ours, and that this separates us from God. And he says the only devil is the knowledge of good and evil. So what do you, panelists, what do you think of this notion of the dualistic awareness of good and evil is what is really wrong? That's what's really evil, so to speak.
Well, I could agree that the notion of good and evil does create separation and keep us apart from God, apart from one another. And it's also used to control, to push one agenda over another agenda. So I can agree with that much of it. There are some things that you don't need to know anything about different powers that are just wrong, causing harm to children, to there, that whatever you want to call it, you can call it purple or yellow. I can't see it as a loving act at all, but I can agree that the whole idea of good and evil and being judged and being you have the same things, you have to plead for God to love you and prove you're pure enough. I can say that that is the problem for a whole lot of things.
Hey, thank you.
So this is really deep, the duality. And what came to mind for me is, and this goes back many years ago, the George Burns movie, Oh God. And one of the things that John Dever asked him about the good and evil, and he said, like, there's up, there's down, there's front, there's back, there's in, there's out. It's the opposites, the polar opposites. And in that balancing of life, it sort of was what he was trying to, it seemed like, well, that sort of makes sense why we have it. However, our perception of what's good and evil is what affects our life, that there is a differences on things, that both sides of it, and it just sort of is how we perceive it. And it's interesting. I started 2024 with a commitment to do the daily lessons of A Course in Miracles. And one of the first lessons that they talk about is, I do not understand anything I see, in that I have given meaning to everything. It is the meaning that I gave to it. And one of the things in that exercise was take sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 times during the day and think your thoughts. And, is it a good thought? Is it a bad thought? But they also said, like, don't put any weight on it, because if you're saying, well, this is good, you're blocking it from what the true vision is. And if you're saying this is bad, you're also blocking it from, understanding what's behind it. So it sort of was like, that just did an eye opener for me, is that when I look at something and go, well, this is really bad. And sometimes things are really bad. But excuse me for coughing. I just find that it makes sense for me to have the pros and cons. It helps me balance my life. And I'm one of these people that will do that sheet where you draw a line down the middle and it goes the yes and the no, because I need to see both sides of things. I have to see, and sometimes it's when I'm looking at something that I'm seeing as bad or evil, I will take the time to look at both sides of it. You know, there is an opposite, polar opposite. So there is a duality, but it's my perspective as to what I'm classifying as evil and how I choose to bring that into my life, and what I choose to say that is good and how I bring that into my life, and how I judge in other situations what's good and evil. So a very interesting topic. I think it can go on to a very long and lengthy discussion as to, you know, people, the good and the good and the bad, the left and the right, and the up and the down, and the in and the out of everything. But I think for me, it's that I'm the one that gives the power as to what's good and evil, and it's my perspective, and I can change that in my thinking. Is that I can, you know, basically affirmations and denials. You know, we basically, you can, if we see it as, you know, evil, then deny the denials coming through, and then we can affirm the good in our life. So I appreciate you bringing that, Susan. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
Well, I would like to finish a reading, okay?
Okay.
Because Goldsmith then tells us what to do with our minds. And as you said, it's how we define whatever it is that's going on, how we label it. And he writes, I have been asked many times, how do you stop thinking? Good question. And I have found one way. The minute I can look at any person or condition and know that it is neither good nor evil, my thought stops and my mind becomes quiet. That is the end of it, because then there are no thoughts left for me to think about it. I do not think good of it, and I do not think evil of it. All I know is that it is. And then I am back at the center of my being, where all power is. Our mind is restless only when we are thinking about things or persons, either in terms of good or evil. But the mind is at rest when we surrender all such comments. If we want to return to the Edenic state and be the man or woman we were in the beginning, the pure creation, all we have to do is give up our knowledge of good and evil. In reality, such knowledge is all in the realm of theory, belief, or human concepts. We must be willing to look upon all the good as well as the evil conditions in our life and in the world and state with conviction, I renounce you, both of you. Henceforth, I know neither good nor evil. I know only God manifest. Through spiritual vision, I behold consciousness forming itself in immortal forms, eternal, harmonious, and abundant. Henceforth, I accept only the revelation of the real creation, in which there is light, even when there is no sun, and no and all is harmony. And he claims that the truth there is neither good nor evil is the secret of life for which people have sought throughout the ages. They have called it a search for God, for the Holy Grail. But when they found it, if they did, what they found was there is neither good nor evil in effect. When they discovered that secret, they had their foot right inside of heaven because they had found the ultimate reality. It is only the knowledge of good and evil that keeps anyone from the Holy Kingdom. And that's what one of the things that you said, Linda, was how you can see this knowledge of good and evil can increase separation or the sense of separation. And that's what he is claiming here. Well, thank you for listening to me on dualism.
Susan, thank you for sharing that and to include the panel into furthering this discussion. It just is very, very interesting topic, and we look forward to having anybody give us their comments. I'm sure we've opened a lot of thoughts for people, and that's what we're here. So I'd like to close this in prayer. Take a moment and just relax, and we center ourselves into the presence of God. And we say, thank you, God, for this knowledge, for this thoughts that we can choose good and evil by just not choosing. If we don't give it power and energy, we see your pure essence and that all is in good and perfect harmony, and that we are all here serving your purpose and being here as loving creatures. And we create that perfect Garden of Eden in our lives. We thank you for this time to be able to share this. And we ask that you bless those who join us here today on our panel and who have come in to listen, and that inspiring them to find their place and offering them the opportunity to join us. With this, I'd like to say amen. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Reverend Linda and Susan, for being on the panel today. I invite anybody to join our panel. We'd always love to hear additional input and topics. And if you liked what was discussed, please leave your comments, give a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe. And if you hit the bell, you'll get notification anytime there's a new posting. We are here to just share this time and this opportunity and to enlighten each other into finding our spiritual paths that we walk. So with this, I want to say thank you and have a great day. And bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.